Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies as we continue with part 15, lesson 14 of the Illuminated Faith, Mystical Interpretation of the Gospel of St. John by R. Swinburne Clymer. Lesson 14. Only he truly worships the Father who does the will of the Father. St. John, chapter 4, 15th through 24th verses. 15. The woman saith unto him, Sir, give me this water that I thirst not, neither come hither to draw. She was willing to receive the truth and to follow the truth after it was presented to her. The vast majority of mankind is seeking for they know not what. They seem to want the truth. They do want it, but they are not yet willing to give up those things which are of the flesh. They would accept the truth if they were allowed, or if it was possible for them to worship both Mammon and the Father. Blessed is he who is willing to accept the truth, the living waters, when presented to him, and to live the truth. 16. Jesus saith unto her, Go, call thy husband, and come hither. 17. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said unto her, Thou hast well said, I have no husband. 18. For thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. And that saidst thou truly. Although the woman of Samaria was an outcast from society, Jesus perceived that there was much good in her, and that she would recognize and acknowledge the truth when placed before her. There is far more hope for him who sins and knows that he sins, than for him who commits wrong and is blinded to his wrongdoing by self-righteousness. It is far easier for the woman, though ostracized from society, to become the child of the Father if she is willing to obey the divine law, than it is for those who, though not committing grievous wrong, are too self-righteous to make conscious, deliberate effort to find the Christ. They know the letter of the law and believe that faith in the letter will bring salvation. Jesus came not to teach those who knew the truth and followed the truth, but to teach those who were committing all manner of evil because they were ignorant of truth. 19. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. 20. Our fathers worshipped in this mountain, and ye say that in Jerusalem is the place where men ought to worship. 21. Jesus saith unto her, Woman, believe me, the hour cometh, when ye shall neither worship in this mountain, nor yet at Jerusalem worship the Father. 22. Ye worship ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation is of the Jews. Men worship in mountains, buildings, temples, and such places as are built of earthly material, not knowing the truth. They believe that these places are more sacred than others, yet they cling to the illusion that the Father, who is their God, dwells in some far-off heaven. They believe that the praise and the service they give him, which is but from the lips, will satisfy the Father, and that he will give them salvation in return for this service. But the hour cometh, the time will come when they will awaken, when they will know that the service which they give on the mountain or in some material temple is not acceptable to the Father, and that it will not give them salvation. They will awaken to the truth that not what comes from the mouth, no matter how beautiful the words, gives man salvation, but that, as the mind awakens to the truth and begins to understand, we must do like the Father in order to become like the Father. When this understanding, this awakening of mind takes place, the hour has come. Then will man begin to think of the Father and the Father's works. He will seek for the method that the Father makes use of in creation, in order that he, in his daily life, may be true to the same method and the same principle. He will learn that if he wishes to construct the true temple, the Temple of Solomon, it is necessary for him not only to have faith, not only to live in the doctrine, not only to praise God with the lips, but that it is imperative for him to think constructive thoughts, thoughts that will construct, thoughts that will build the temple. He will learn that it is necessary for him to transform his desires even into such quality as is conducive to permanency in temple construction, that in his relations with men in the practical affairs of life, he must exemplify the divine law in its various demands. For only such desires and such thoughts and such a life will ensure for him a temple wherein the Father may take up his abode. To do the works of the Father through a life of true service to others is the highest worship of the Father. To manifest the law of love and goodwill and justice and mercy in the affairs of life, in every avenue of material interest. This it is to do the works of the Father. This it is to build the Temple of Solomon. When the building of the temple is completed, that is, when the desires and the thoughts, the motives and the purposes have been so transfigured into the Christ ideal of character that the body, which is the temple, has become pure, then illumination of soul takes place. The Christ appears. Man has become the Son of God. 23. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshippers shall worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. 24. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. To worship the Father with the lips merely is not true worship of him. Such worship is simply of the mind that has not even become awakened, mind that is still ignorant enough to fancy that the all-wise Father may be deluded into thinking that we love him, even though we do things contrary to his standards. The only way to worship the Father in spirit and in truth is to become like him in character and in deeds. In order to become like him, we must renounce desires of the flesh. We must encourage only the desires that come from the soul. The divine spark of the soul, coming from God, is therefore like him, and when we live according to the divine law, the soul may be developed into a center of consciousness, dynamic activities in harmony with the law. Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father, which is in heaven, is perfect. Time and again has Jesus taught that man is the temple of the living God, and that the Father dwells therein. When man lives according to the divine law, his soul becomes a center of divine potencies and activities. His temple is then the true temple of Solomon, the temple of wisdom. He that dwelleth therein is the Father, for the temple hath been builded for him. And the fires, the vestal fires, or fires of purity, burn upon the altar, and the incense, the prayers of the soul and true praise, raise on high. This is true worship of the Father. It is worship in spirit and in truth. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.